the homework, in order to solve for all 6 trig functions, first thing you have to do is find the missing side. Excuse me. To find the missing side, like you have to use Pythagorean theorem. Using Pythagorean theorem, you take 85 square root of 85 squared, subtract 36. You get the square root of 49, which is 7. So now to find all 6 trig functions from theta, that means the sine of theta is your opposite. I'm just going to write O over H, 6 over root 85. Rationalize it. Multiply top and bottom by the square root of 85. You get 6 root 85 over 85. Cosine. You get 7 over square root of 85, which is 7 root 85 over 85. Tangent. You get opposite over adjacent, which is 6 over 7. Now, when you go to get all of the inverse functions, your inverse functions, starting with cosecant. Cosecant is the inverse of sine. It's hypotenuse over opposite. So that is root 85 over 6. Secant is the inverse of cosine. So it is the hypotenuse over the opposite. In this case, it's root 85 over 7. And then lastly, cotangent is the inverse of tangent, 7 over 6. So all you have to do is first find out all of the originals, and then just flip them. Yeah?
Are we going to memorize, like, the cosine and sine being, like, what is what over what?
Yeah. Yeah, because once we get into it more and more and more, you're going to have to know all of the sine, cosine, and tangents of all your basic of all your basic angles. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Thames. Exactly. You never use that in pre-calc, do you, Mr. Thames?
Not
This is something they only have to learn for about 2 weeks, and they're...
That's right. You don't need to know that the sine of pi over 6 is 1/2.
Never.
Are you serious or sarcastic?
Yes.
I'm totally sarcastic. We just spent the last 2 months on knowing that.
Yeah. In pre-calc, guys, seriously, this chapter that we're doing, chapter 13 and 14 in advance, is a huge part of next year, and we're going to beat you over the head with trig, so that way Mr. Thames doesn't beat me up.
If you cannot tell me that the sine of pi over 6 is 1/2, pi over 3 is square root 3 over 2, sine of pi over 4 is square root 2 over 2, sine of pi is -1. You cannot tell me that quick. It'll take you a while.
And remember, you have no idea what he's talking about right now. Give it a couple of weeks. You're gonna be fine. Seriously, you guys are gonna be fine. I haven't.
So is stats like the same thing as pre-calc and college thing?
What do you mean?
Is it like the same?
Oh yeah, it's still math.
So it doesn't matter if it takes stats or pre-calc?
One thing that we've said a lot of times, if you're looking between stats or pre-calc for your 4th year math class, think about what you're going to be doing in college and what do you think class is going to benefit you. When you take a pre-calc class, you are going to be in a better position as you get into college because you have to take what's called a placement test. And most of those placement tests have all advanced algebra, some pre-calc on it. And if you don't test well enough, you're going to be put in a lower level class that's going to cost you thousands of dollars to take without getting credit. That's the only thing I'm going to say about that. Plus stats. Stats is a great class, especially if you're going in a completely non-mathematical field, something that you're never going to take a math class for, because you still are going to have to take a stats class. In most fields, you're going to have to take stats. But remember the placement test, though. The placement test is going to get you, because you have to have some prereqs. So what was the other one you want to look at? I heard 49.
No, 45.
No, hold on. No,
I know there was a 40.
47.
49. I don't want to do all these work problems. We have a lot to do.
If we do 23.
On 49, we'll come back. On 49, You are below the mountain's peak at an altitude of 8580. You are using surveying instruments. You measure the angle of elevation up to the peak to be 30.5. The distance along the base of the mountain between you and the peak is 7426 feet. What is the altitude of the peak? So, once again, in this case here, the best thing you can do is draw some picture. Okay? Right now, the other thing you have to take into consideration in this problem is that you are already, you are below the mountain's peak at an altitude, you are here, already at 8580. You're off the ground right now. You know that the measurement from here, looking up, is 30.5. This distance here is 7426. You need to find this distance, and then you add the 8580 to it. Okay? It's kind of tricky. The only thing that's different between this and what you would have done last year is that you didn't have to add the 8580. All right? So what trig function am I going to use to find my opposite given a hypotenuse? Sine. Very good. So I use the sine. I know that the sine of 30.5 is something over 7426. So 7426 sine of 30.5 is x. Okay. Then you add that to the 85. Make sure you're in degree mode because this problem gave you your angle of elevation in degrees. Okay. What was the one for 23 I heard? 23 you had, I believe that's the 45-45-90 problem. Yeah, in the 45-45-90, and you're given across from the 90 is the square root of 11. So in a 45-45-90, x root 2, you know that across from the 90 is equal to the square root of 11. To figure out what the other two values are going to be, is that you have to solve this one-step equation for x. So you divide both sides by square root of 2, which means you have to rationalize. So you get root 22 over 2. And that's what you get for the other two sides. That it is. All right. Last one. We got too much to do. Solve the triangle given 29 and 21. Okay? So you have to find the missing angle, and you got to find the two missing sides. Missing angle is going to be the easiest thing to find in this problem. The complement to 29 degrees is 61. Thank you. Now from there, the cosine 29 is the adjacent over the hypotenuse. And then the tangent of 29 is the opposite over the adjacent. I'll call this x, and I'll call that y. That's how you do it. Draw the picture, no. Make sure your name's wrong.